everyone. Just want to say thank you for joining us on our YouTube channel or podcast. Here at the 508, we are passionate about helping you navigate your 20s. If this episode impacted you in any way, please subscribe, leave a comment, rate, review, like. Hey, if there's any issues that you are currently going through and would like us to talk about them, send us a comment, send us a DM, and we would love to help you. We are all about bringing practical solutions to cultural problems with biblical principles. And remember, we do not fear the future, we pioneer it.
What's up, 508 family? My name is Ruth, and I will be your host today in this episode of the 508 podcast. I'm joined here by three lovely gentlemen.
Lovely. Yeah. Wow. I'll take it.
Lovely.
All right.
You're definitely winning us over.
We have J Baby the Fourth, aka Justin Davis, or
the Doctor. Yes, the Dr. Davis. Yes.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
And then we got King Deezy, Pastor Deezy.
What up? What up?
And bald and beautiful.
He's
Michael
back,
Turkett.
ladies and
Yes,
gentlemen.
he is.
He's back.
Yeah.
And he's still bald. Yeah.
Right. Well,
That
here's
hair
the thing.
treatment.
I was thinking about this podcast today, and I was excited about it. Okay. So I thought that maybe we go bald, beautiful, bodacious today. So just for today, and we can kind
Not
of
bodybuilder.
We can.
Bodacious.
Well, no, that's probably not where we're going. So.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today.
And as you guys can tell too, I didn't get the memo on the dark colors, so
Right.
We're just more
I am in
fashionable.
purple, so
That's okay.
Well, it's Easter weekend, so you got to go against the purple.
I have an announcement, guys.
okay.
I ate at a restaurant yesterday.
Okay, I thought it was going very different. I'm like, this is probably our last podcast, to be honest.
No, but I'm really excited because they're like slowly but surely letting us gather in groups, and restaurants are opening back up.
Thank
and
the
I
Lord.
got to sit at a restaurant outdoors, but I ate there. I ate some tacos, shrimp tacos. But it was bomb. It was really good.
But it was what?
It was bomb. It was like really
It's
good.
great. It's fantastic.
How are you guys?
Good. I have a reservation for Tuesday, so I'm looking forward
Where you
to
going?
finally getting out. Italian place in Westboro.
Little date night?
Nice.
Yeah,
Is
it'll
it
be
the
our
chateau?
1 year anniversary from our first date.
Really?
Yeah.
Mind you, he's already married.
He is
Already?
No.
What do you mean already? What do you mean
Just
already?
letting all the ladies know you're
Already
already
on the
married.
date drop.
There was some resentment there, I think.
No.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, we wanted to honor, all of our audience. We've had so much response, and honestly, it's been a little overwhelming for how amazing it's been. We've gotten a lot of feedback, a lot of comments. I've gotten personal DMs, Facebooks, for all those that have been sharing these episodes, tagging us in them, telling us how it's helped you. Thank you so much. When we started this adventure of launching a podcast, we had no idea what was going to be happening in our culture. So we started, I believe, in January of this year. We launched the podcast, and it was really just because we felt like the Lord gave us this word of the year called Trailblazer. So to pioneer things and do things that nobody else is doing. And I really don't see many people in this space, especially in the church world. So we want to give you content, teaching, all this kind of stuff to be able to help you navigate your 20s. And again, the response has been overwhelming. So for all those that have been watching, viewing, listening on the actual podcast, on iTunes, on YouTube, love you guys so much. Thank you. Keep sending in those questions. We want to hear from you. We want to be able to answer questions that you have. Maybe an upcoming episode we'll just dedicate it to just frequently asked questions or things like that. So we want to honor you guys. Thank you again
thank you so much
for making what it is.
We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Ru, what are we talking about today?
All right, so today we'll be talking about how to win over people, how to influence them, and how to maintain that, how not to lose it.
One of my favorite topics.
Absolutely.
I love it.
We love talking about all things leadership here. We love talking about influencing people, winning them over. And so let's dive deep into this discussion.
Yeah, so we're going to explain why this is important. And we definitely believe that this can help you personally, professionally, and spiritually above all else. So, Justin, take it.
Yeah, so like I said, this topic is near and dear to my heart. I actually brought a book with me, and I was telling them this. I'm kind of ashamed because this is actually beaten up more than my Bible is. So if that tells you something. This is probably the second best book on the planet behind the Bible, and it is one that has influenced my life greatly. It is by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Buy this book, read it, study it. I try to read this once a year. But John Maxwell says that leadership is influence. So the definition of what leadership is influence. You're either gaining influence or you're losing influence. But you are not a leader if you are not influencing people. And you're influencing people all over the place. Totally. In every aspect of your life. It's not just if you're a boss and you have employees and you're influencing them, but you influence your friends, you influence your spouse or your partner. You influence everybody you come in contact with in a positive way or a negative way. That's right. And so today we really want to break down how to gain influence, how to maintain influence, and how to not lose influence.
It's good. There really is no neutral. So you're saying you influence people for good or for bad. There really is no middle line. It's kind of like you're on water and there's a current. You're never staying the same. And so I think all of us need to be very intentional about the influence that we do have and to be constantly working towards adding value to people and then growing personally in our own leadership. Mm-hmm. So I love it because, Rue, you said it. I think the reason we should be learning how to win people, and what I mean by that is basically influencing people, being a people mover, being a mover and a shaker. I love all those terms. But the reason we should do that is because it will help you personally. I think it'll benefit you professionally, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit. But I think more importantly than anything, it'll benefit you spiritually. Let me talk about personally first. I think if you learn how to win people, how you influence people, how you add value to people, you will have the greatest relationships. You will have some of the best friendships. There will be deep trust established. And I just think you can win because you learned how to have and how to be a good friend if you want good friends. That's what Scripture teaches. Learn how to be a good friend before you have good friends. And to be honest, and let me just say this as a pastor of this community, I think if you're by yourself, to be completely honest with you, and I'm not trying to be offensive, I think it's your fault. I think 100% it is your responsibility. And so if you're lonely, let's make some adjustments. You got to ask yourself, why am I in this place? Why am I lonely? And how can I move forward and develop deeper relationships? That's why I think we got to learn how to win people over.
Completely.
So maybe, I don't know, Rue, Mike, what do you guys think? How do you personally win people over, just be friends with you? What do you guys do? What are some just practical things? Yeah. What do you guys do?
I think when I think about, influence in general, it's, in my perspective, it's intentionality on our end. It's like, how can you be super intentional, and that's one thing that I've seen with all of us is that there's an intentionality, and it's kind of funny, but recently I declared that I was an extrovert. Okay. I was sitting at home. I knew the exact
the identity
moment. Finally. I remember I took some test. Maybe it was like the Myers-Briggs or something like that. And then it said that I was an introvert. I'm like, that's like an interesting thought. So I'm like, maybe I'm an introvert. So one day I was just sitting.
This requires a little context. Yes. So Mike's just declaring he's an extrovert. But what you don't know about this is as soon as that camera clicks stop, he's gone.
I'm gone.
He's home, dude.
Dude, I'm out.
But now it's different. He sent us a text the other day in a group chat. He's like, "Yo, what are we doing tonight? We gonna party?"
It was amazing.
I was so confused.
The first time
it was the greatest
we've ever seen Mike try to initiate community.
Here's what their issue is. Okay, the major issue on their end. Okay, I'll just put it out there. Okay, I want to be good friends with them. Okay, I'm very intentional on my end. Okay, no, but seriously. I decided, it's funny, but it was actually, when you go back to loneliness, I found that on most nights I was in this place of loneliness. But what I realized is that it was actually my own intentional decisions that I was making to stay home. And for me, it was a protection piece. I was like, if I'm home, I'm protected. And so for me, it was like, I need to be more intentional about going back into community. And that might be you too. You might be in this place where you're like, man, I used to like being around friends. I used to like being around community. And maybe you got hurt somewhere along the way, just like me. And I realized that, it's funny, I made a decision to be an extrovert. I made that decision because I realized that my own intentionality was actually killing me. Wow. And my intentionality was to stay home. And now I have the greatest friends in the world, but it's on the other side of making an intentional decision.
Thank you for saying that about us. No, genuinely, I think the intentionality is so key and it's so important. We shared one of these thoughts in our 10 keys to finding a soulmate. By the way, go back and watch that video. It's so helpful. We shared one of these things, but you got to position yourself to find somebody. You can't just stay home 80% of the time and just expect God's just going to float somebody and it's going to be a... If
That's
you're
a Jehovah's Witness,
So
I
what are
think.
you, So what are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say, get out and about. Go connect with people.
Okay.
But genuinely, you got to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, put yourself in social environments where you can position yourself to find great friends and great community. Take a small risk. And here's what I mean by that. Take like a calculated risk. Show and reveal a little bit about who you are and see if you can trust that person with it. Don't just be somebody that just verbally vomits your whole life, all your pain, your struggles. Don't be a dump truck and just be like, this is my whole story.
Yeah,
that takes time.
That's good.
But position yourself, go out and about, see some people, meet with some people that are not in your circle, and watch your worldview, watch your friendships grow so much.
Yeah, I think what you said about finding the right people, the right community is key because before I started getting involved here, I used to be kind of like Mike where I was very intentional about staying home, and it was because I thought or I assumed the identity of having a very strong social anxiety. And so I just kind of assumed that I was introverted because I always dreaded going out and being around people because I would just get anxious. And I realized it was because I was around the wrong people and I was trying to become something that I wasn't.
Wow.
And so
good,
it wasn't, as soon as I got into the right relationships and the right community and around the right people, that melted away. Have not had a single instance or feeling of social anxiety. I'm like social butterfly now.
Yeah.
What was your first?
I was about to say this story. So I had my home open door policy. I mean, genuinely, we're probably going to invest in a revolving door in our front. So we had some people over. Justin came. He was new to the community.
Sitting in the corner.
It was so funny because I'm asking Justin. Yes. I'm asking Justin, like, dude, you good? You having fun? And he's like literally so stoic. He's just...
Dude, I looked across
just
the room and he was lasered in.
And he's like, dude, but he was literally like, dude, I'm having so much fun right now. And I'm asking him, like, I literally go to my wife and I'm like, babe, he hates us. He's not going to last. But here's what I think I learned from that scenario. Although there might be discomfort, it doesn't mean there's not growth happening. Mm-hmm. You know, so for an extrovert like me or people that love to socialize and you see people that are not socializing or engaging the way you want them to engage, it doesn't mean things aren't happening behind the scenes or even within them. Now Justin is not only just a part of our community, he's one of the leaders and one of the most extroverted people I know. But it just requires a little bit of trust. It requires a little bit of getting out of your comfort zone. Yep. And then that growth process is so amazing. It's awesome to watch. So I think that's personal. Let me talk about professional for a little bit because I think all you guys have experienced professional growth because of your relational skills. And that's really what we're talking about in this whole podcast in this episode is having relational skills. So I think you can go further faster because of your emotional quotient, your EQ. But I think I just read this book called Relational Intelligence. Powerful, amazing book by Darius Daniels, one of my favorite authors and speakers. But he just talks about how to have those relational skills to have success in your relationships. It will propel you so fast. It will get you promotions so quick because you have those skills. What else would you guys say about that? Have you guys experienced, furthering in your careers because of your ability to influence people?
Yeah, I'll add something real quick. And, before I hop into the professional piece, I just wanted to share one brief story. I remember when I was a senior in high school, I had somebody in my life. I won't say where they were because you'd be able to know. But it was somebody that had a lot of influence over me. And I remember in school, he taught one of my classes. And so during the class, what he would do is he would publicly embarrass me. And so it was over and over and over and over again, I would be embarrassed. And so when I look at making a decision to be an extrovert and we're even talking about influencing people and winning people. So I look back further back and you mentioned social anxiety and I was like, wow, now that you said that, that's the reason why I didn't want to be in community because I had people that I trusted in my life that basically took He took my my security as who I was, and he embarrassed me publicly. And so I had so much social anxiety. I'm like, dude, I don't want to be in public anymore.
Wow.
You know, if I'm in public, that equals pain, and maybe that's you too. And I wanted to address that because if you're in this place where maybe you're afraid to go out, you're afraid to make friends, and we're talking about influence. Influence is like when you're very confident, right? It's like on the opposite side of social anxiety. And so maybe the best next step for you is just to address that. The Bible says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, sound mind.
Come on, bro.
Power, love, sound mind. And so that's one thing that I had to battle through. And now we go to the professional life. I'm in sales. So it's like sales is influence. It's like all I do all day. I have to influence people. And one thing that I learned with the training in my company, whoever is most certain. So say if you're talking to somebody, if you are more certain that you can influence them or help them or serve them than they are about their maybe, I don't feel good enough, or maybe, I have social anxiety. If you are certain enough, whoever has the most certainty will be able to influence that other person.
It's great, bro.
And I see that in my professional life.
It's great. First of all, I want to honor you. Thank you for your vulnerability on that. Yeah. I think that would help a lot of people to address why you might feel that social anxiety. Because I really don't think that is God's intention for your life. He designed you, wired you, your DNA. Our God, the Trinity in and of itself, is the model of relationship. There's 3 in 1. I think that's what God wants for you. So he wants community for you. So maybe we got to address some of those things. And then I also wanted to say, I'm pretty sure he was talking about me, and I'm sorry for shaming you. I'm just kidding. No, but genuinely, I think there's something to be said about learning how to win people professionally, and it will make you go further, faster. But I think lastly, and most importantly, the reason you are on this earth is not to further, your gospel, but God's. And so that's why we need to learn how to do this. Is we're not here to make $1. You've heard me say this. We're here to make a difference. You're not here to make $1. You're here to make a difference. So we need to learn how to win people. Paul talks about this. I become all things to all men so that I might win some. That's what we are trying to do. Is we're trying to learn how to win people and influence them, really for the sake of the gospel. So let's talk about it. Let's give some practical handles. How do we do that?
So when I was kind of going through and reading and studying, and I tried to break down what is influence and how do we influence. And so I have three A's of influence that I'd like to kind of walk through and unpack. First, you want to acknowledge them as a person.
Acknowledge, I like it.
Acknowledge them as a person. You appreciate them as an individual, and then you acquire their heart. So you acknowledge them as a person, you appreciate them as an individual, and you acquire their heart. But I think before you actually start doing that, I think just biblically, how you approach every relationship, every conversation, every interaction, you should always see Jesus in everybody you come in contact with. If you see Jesus in them before you interact with them, it makes everything easier. And so let's break down acknowledging people as a person. So very quickly, very easily, something that I do practically is I try to if I make eye contact with somebody, I try to smile.
It's good.
You just show a smile, and you'll probably get a smile back. And 9 times out of 10, they're gonna smile, and it's going to brighten their day. I don't know if you've ever been walking down the street and you've been having a bad day, and someone smiles at you. It always brightens your day.
Seriously, it's good.
And then there's a power in the name.
We've talked about the power of the name of Jesus, but there is a power in the name of an individual person. People care about their name. It's the one thing that everybody has on this planet that is theirs. It's their name. We do so much in our lives to perpetuate our name, to make our legacy great. And most people will value their name greater than all other names on this world combined. And so using somebody's name in a conversation, remembering their name, goes so far.
True. How many of us have forgotten the names of people? And it's, I think there's grace for it at times, but at some point it becomes insulting, especially after relationships should be established. And I want to go back to the first one too, just about smiling. We were giving some coaching to some people recently, and there are some people that honestly, their countenance, their face, their aura, it just looks like they don't want people. If you don't look approachable, nobody's going to approach you.
Yeah.
You know, something to honor her, something I tell Rue all the time is, Rue, put your eyebrows down. Come on. So when her eyebrows go up, listen to me. How many times have I talked about this to you?
Eyebrows down.
When I know Rue's upset, is because these eyebrows go all the way up to her forehead and just go. And I'm like, Rue, put your eyebrows down. No, but genuinely, your face communicates a lot.
So true.
You know, the Bible talks about your countenance a lot.
Yeah.
The Bible actually says, I believe it's in Proverbs, it says your countenance reveals the condition of your soul.
Yeah.
And so be approachable. Make sure your physical stature showcases and communicates without saying something. I want to have conversation with you. Smile. Be a person of laughter. Listen, I don't trust people that don't laugh. I really don't.
Yeah.
Because if you don't laugh, I love this principle. If you don't laugh, you don't last. And so it's really good for the soul. So smile, use a name. What else, Jake?
So, I mean, I just have a story about using a name. I was flying to Denver a couple years ago for a work trip, and I'm walking onto the plane. And for any of you who have ridden on a plane before, that interaction of when you hand your ticket to the person and then walk onto the plane is very quick. And I made it very intentional. To tell her thank you and to say her name when she gave me my ticket back. We'll just say it was Linda. Said, thank you, Linda. I hope you have a great day. And in that small 5-second window of handing her my ticket and walking onto the plane, she stopped me and said, where are you sitting? Looked down at my ticket and then immediately put me up in first class.
Oh, dang.
Just because I said thank you, I used her name, and I told her to have a good day.
She
It
definitely
made
thought
her
you were
look.
cute.
Dude, don't even lie. Linda was like, dude, look at this.
Was this pre or post Lori in your life?
This was 2 years ago, so it was definitely pre.
It was.
You were definitely flirting, bro. There's no doubt,
He
dude.
just wanted him.
He probably was like, thanks, Linda.
But
Yeah, with the smile,
just totally-
same thing.
that's
And you
just
smiled.
Contact, smile.
that's just
Little
like
wink.
an example. It's just
It's brilliant, though. It really is. The power of a name.
people want to hear their name said. If I'm at a restaurant and I see someone's name tag when they come to bring my food, thank you, Devin. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Rue. They just want to hear a name.
So good.
And then next, and I think this we can really unpack because I think this is extremely important for the times that we're living in right now, is you need to listen to what they have to say more than you need to speak.
So good.
People want to be heard,
So
so
good.
let them speak. I don't know if you guys want to.
Yeah, I think you got to listen to learn, not to respond. Just a different way of saying what you just said.
That's good.
I think as a communicator, a lot of times, even in these conversations, I'm listening to Justin and I'm like, okay, what am I going to say next? But I think you'll learn and you'll know what to say next and the right thing to say next if you're truly listening in the first place. And this is what we see a lot in our culture today, especially online, through media, social media, is people are not listening to learn. They're listening to respond and normally to disagree. And there's a whole different conversation in that. And at some point, we're going to do a podcast on this, on, the art of disagreement. I think it's a lost art today. But I think it's so valuable and so important to listen, to learn, not to respond.
Yeah, and when we were talking about, you were saying see Jesus in everybody. That's, to be honest with you, as you've been talking, that's just really stuck with me. And when you talk about listening, it's like you can't, and we're talking about influence, you can't influence somebody, one, without listening to them, but two, if you're judging that person, if there's judgment from your heart to their heart, you are not going to be able to influence them. That's like the root of it.
Totally.
So for you to influence anybody, that judgment, and you look at the Bible, it's all over the Bible, right? Judge and ye be judged. So it's almost like you're judging yourself. So you're looking at this person and you want to influence them. You want to be in this place of like, I'm certain that I'm going to influence them, by the way, for Jesus. And that's the most important part. And it's not even with your words. Like I've seen in my own family. I don't know that I've said more than a few sentences to them about Jesus, honestly. But now we all go to church. Yeah. So it was a model. But I didn't judge their model of the world. I listened. I listened, not even to their words, but to their actions and what they wanted from me. And so the moment I stopped judging even my own family because of the way that their model of the world was built, then I started to influence them. Why? Because I wasn't judging them. The judgment was gone, and then the influence could come in.
So good. So the first one is acknowledge.
Is acknowledge them as an individual.
Second, let's go second.
As a person. Appreciate them as an individual. and this kind of ties hand in hand with the listen, is you want to make people feel important. In the book, Dale Carnegie says, every man I meet is my superior in some way. And in that, I learn from them.
Wow.
That's
You want to make sure everybody is better at you at something and learn from them. Listen to them, make them feel important, and learn from them. And in that as well, you need to have sustained interest. Actually, sincere interest in what they're talking about. If I'm listening to you and I'm just kind of, it's more of, I guess I'm hearing you. I have my ears open and I'm hearing what you're saying, but I'm not actively listening. And this point of sustained interest is so important, especially in the church. And Rue, I think you do a great job of this with the girls. I don't know if you want to talk about any practical tips that you have on how you keep sustained interest. How do you reach out? How do you make sure that they're engaged, involved, and they actually understand that you truly care about them?
Yeah, I think everyone's a little different. Some people are more like, they just want time together where, you meet up, you get coffee, and some people they really just want to be listened to. So like they'll just talk and let you know what's going on. And then that just opens a door. Like, you're a friend, you're a good friend. I'm here for you. How can I help you if that's what they want? But it's just, for me personally, it's like once I think about them, I have to reach out. It's not necessarily like a set schedule, like, okay, I'm going to text this person once a week. But it's, if I think about them, I reach out and just kind of ask how they're doing. I think that's the most important, just to make sure like they're doing okay. And we read that awesome book. It was Way of the Shepherd. That taught me a ton. So the way they mentioned, like, know your flock. So it's just really knowing the condition of the people that you influence or that are surrounding you. To me, that's probably the most important. Like,
what's your love languages?
Touch and quality time.
Where's the affirmation on it?
I think that's in there.
I'd say that sounds like you're really passionate about it.
Somewhere in there.
It's there too.
I mean, I can say for
anything
me,
but gifts. Just don't buy me anything. If anyone's wondering.
This again is not a plug for your singleness. Anyways, so I know for me personally, words of affirmation is a big deal to me. It's a love language, and I think it's a love language of a lot of great leaders. I think it's a love language of a lot of men, especially. And so, you want to win people, learn how to appreciate them, do so well. It's not just saying a general compliment. It's being specific about it. Here's what I love about you. I love your character. I love the fact that you texted me when you knew I was hurting, or you remembered the date that there was something tragic that happened, and then you texted me and called me on that day. That meant the world to me. Be specific about your appreciation. Your influence will skyrocket so fast.
Yeah.
So first we have acknowledge.
Yep.
Then we have appreciate.
Then we appreciate that.
Then we have.
Yeah. So going just to tie that back in is one key that I hope everyone takes away from this, and you just remember and just try to stew on it a little bit, is everybody, we all appreciate someone and like somebody who admires us. So admire people, listen to them, appreciate them, sustained interest, admire them.
Can I just add something out real quick? So with sales, when you're looking to influence somebody, and we're talking about listening, we're talking about appreciating their world, acknowledging them, all these different things. I'm trained now, the 80-20 principle. I should be listening 80% of the time. And think about that number. Like, think about if you actually listen 80% of the time. And when you're actually speaking, you're not speaking to be heard. You ask questions. I'm trained to ask questions. The best leaders in the world, the best influencers, ask the best questions. And so if you're looking to, one, understand somebody's world, and in the world we're living in today, the best thing that we can do is ask a good question. What is a better, and that could be something that you could ask in your life. And we talked about a few weeks ago, how can I celebrate my life? How can I be more grateful? How can I love my person? Like, how could I love my family better? How could I lead people better? Now that you're asking questions, what your mind is going to do is it's going to bring you somewhere. And so it's important as we're influencing people, 80-20, you're listening, and use that and leverage questions to influence us.
It's great, bro. It's great.
So the third final A is acquire their heart. So once you've acknowledged them as a person, you've appreciated them as an individual, now you acquire their heart. And I think one thing that is so key, and I've been really trying to get better at this, is being able to admit when I'm wrong. If you can't admit when you're wrong, that relationship will never grow. And I think admitting when you're wrong, when you are really wrong, doesn't break the relationship. It actually reconciles it and brings it closer. So you have better unity when the other person knows that you care about this relationship enough to take responsibility for a wrong that you've made. I don't know if you guys have had any instances like this, any examples. I mean, I had one just this week at work where I know you guys know I'm a little eccentric in my thoughts. I tend to think a lot of things at the same time and just kind of throw them up and just want to kind of go and move forward. And in doing that, I might have stepped on a couple toes because I have some big projects and some things and just some vision that I wanted to implement. And so I stepped on a couple toes and I didn't follow the right procedures around certain things when it comes to project management. And so I had a couple of different business areas that were very mad because they were not consulted and it affected them. And so I had a phone call with one of them, and immediately the first thing I just wanted to say, you know what, I'm sorry. This is actually very hypocritical of me because when people don't consult me and my department for things that affect us, I get mad, and I didn't do that, and I want to just start this conversation off by saying I made a mistake, I'm sorry, and I'm not going to be doing it again.
And that builds influence.
It does.
It builds influence. And so when you take ownership for a mistake, immediately, and I know that from experience. I remember working with somebody.
It healed the relationship.
Yeah, there's healing there. When you take ownership for something, the relationship, your influence increases. You think it's different though. You think it's like, man, they'll think I'm like dumb, or
they see my humanity. I made a mistake.
It's the exact opposite. Your influence will immediately start. They'll be like, okay, I can trust this person because if he does or she does screw up, I can trust them to take ownership.
Here's a principle: people are impressed by your gifts, but they connect with your weaknesses. So when you shared, I was wrong, I didn't do this right, I don't always do this right, I actually think you gain influence as opposed to losing it. I tell some of the people on our team, especially when you're transparent and honest before anything comes out or happens. You might have made a mistake, but you actually gained so much influence with me because one, it tells me you trust me. Two is I trust you because now I realize even when a mistake is made, we can still have good relationship, and that's the priority, not to hide your mistake or your sin. So that's why I think it's so healthy to be forward about that kind of stuff. It's where we're finding your heart.
I think too, people relate to you more if they see like, you made a mistake, I make mistakes too. So that way, like you have more influence on someone that if they can relate to you, and I'm not perfect, I'm not always right, these are my flaws, and it just makes us human, and then people want to connect with like someone that looks human, and it's achievable to be like that.
I don't know if you guys are like me, but when I hear that other people make mistakes, especially like people I look up to, it like I am so happy to be honest. When I hear their wins, I'm like, dang, I suck. That's what I think about. But when I see people make mistakes, a lot of times I'm like, thank God, it actually frees me quite a bit. And so I think you got to be open with the fact that you make mistakes and that you have failed in some things. But it does not mean that you are a failure. My grandfather says it to me all the time. Good. Failure is an event and not a person. It's not an identity. So go forward with that. Be open about the things that you make mistakes about. It's so helpful.
Can I just touch on something on the other side? So now let's talk about forgiveness, because when you look at taking ownership, that's like, okay, I screwed up and I did something bad. But what happens when somebody else does something bad to you? And maybe here's the key part. Maybe it wasn't like, maybe when you look at like your own life, you didn't deserve that. It was something that happened to you, but for what reason? Like it was like it just, maybe somebody hurt you, maybe somebody did. So I want to read a scripture. Mark 11:25. It says, whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also who is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses. And so now let's talk about influence. If I have bitterness, and by the way, the root of anger and bitterness and all these different things, it's unforgiveness. And so if you see that boiling up in your life and you see this anger and like, oh man, I hate, maybe you even don't like being around people. Maybe you have social anxiety and you're so mad at somebody who embarrassed you in public like I was. You know what I had to do? had to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, my countenance, it didn't change until I did.
Wow.
And I saw recently, there was all these different things that I wrote down. It was, I forgave a lot of things toward God and toward myself and toward other people. And it was like 3 different categories. And I didn't realize how much I had. And no wonder why my countenance and why I didn't want to go out.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm like, dude, I'm an extrovert. You know what I mean, dude? Now I'm an extrovert because I decided to forgive. Look at that. Praise the living Lamb. So
So what are the 3 A's? It's acknowledge,
Acknowledge them as an individual or as a
Yeah.
person.
appreciate,
Appreciate them as an individual and acquire their heart.
Yeah.
Let me give a final thought and we'll conclude, and I'll pass it off to Rue. But kind of a principle I abide by, especially when it comes to leadership. And I'm trying to get people on our team, or trying to get people a part of our ministry or what we're trying to do in the mission that God has for our church. Is I have 3 things: heart, head, and then hands. Heart, head, hands. When you acquire their heart, meaning they genuinely appreciate what you are doing for them, or the fact that they care. I love the John Maxwell quote: "People don't know how much, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." When there is genuine care, not care so that one day they can do something for you, but genuine care, well, then you capture their heart. When you capture their heart, then you speak to their mind. Give them wisdom, principle, intellect. Help them navigate and connect some of the dots. Those are the best MCs in our church. The best MCs in our church are connecting the dots for people. This is why we do this worship transition. This is why we do worship the way we do. This is why we have the sermon the way we have it. And we talk about real life and have real life stories and practical solutions. It's connecting the dots for people. That's their mind. And then lastly, it would be their hands. When you have their heart and you have their head, you get their hands. And then you watch people do incredible things that they never thought they could do. The fact that you're watching this video, there's a team behind these cameras. And it's because they are fully involved into the mission of God, because there's a heart behind it. They understand why we're doing it. And then now they're putting practice and they're putting so much work behind the scenes. You don't even realize how much work this takes, by the way. It's not just filming these episodes and then it's done. There is hours upon hours upon hours of editing, of setting up, and all this kind of stuff. And it's for you. And we realize that this is bigger than ourselves. And that's because we have the heart, we have the head, and then we get the hands. And that's why it's so important to win people.
So good. Well, thank you guys for the conversation and for sharing all the knowledge you guys have. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching. We hope you got something out of this. Make sure if you haven't seen our last episodes that you tune into those too. But we'll be back with you guys shortly in the next upcoming episodes. Just don't forget, here at the 508, we don't fear the future, we pioneer it.